All right, we're still getting this technology. Welcome, everybody, to Your Voice Talk Show, where we have real conversations. We really are excited about today's show. Is that correct, Kay? We ready for today's show?
I am past beyond ready. I've been waiting all week for today to talk about this important topic, Sonia. I am so excited, delighted that the guests we have are willing to share their information and just really be a blessing to everybody.
Right. And for those of you who just tuned in for the first time for Your Voice Talk Show, my name is Sonia Graham. I'm author of It's Time to Uncover Your Original Blueprint, 10 Steps to Uncover the Real You and Your Purpose. Also a co-founder of Skin on Men Model and Talent Agency, where we are geared to make a difference. More than an agency, it's about diversity and inclusion. And Kay?
I am Keiko Johnson. I am a personal trainer at the Women's Health and Fitness Center, and I am also an author of um, Healed Inside Out, My Journey to Wholeness, which is available on Amazon.com, or you can also contact me for your copy. Welcome
Absolutely.
to the show.
Absolutely. So, without further ado, let's get started.
Okay, so I'm so excited, guys. We want to be such a blessing to you guys. We have this all mapped out. So we want to go ahead and get started because we have lots of information to give you, and without any delay, the name of the show, I guess you guys saw the name of the show. So it's a very serious topic. So go get your mom, your dad, your friends, everybody you know, tell them to tune in for lots and lots of information. Of course, we are talking about COVID-19, and as you saw, we have a surprise guest that's going to be on that was on the brink of death and with COVID-19. But praise God, he is here to they're here to share the story. So what I want, how the platform is lined out. We have two guests. Our first guest I'm going to introduce and kind of tell you how the story kind of. I wasn't involved in the journey, y'all. Sonia was really involved in the journey. It's a whole journey, so you guys pay attention. So she's going to be doing a lot of chiming in on what went on and how everything went on. So I'm going to be just listening because it's good information. So, first, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first guest. Our first guest is Darryl King. He is co-founder and CEO, the Principal Partnering Group LLC. Darryl actually is, and I'm gonna let him explain how he plays a part in this whole picture. But he's actually the friend that provided the lifeline to the person that actually had COVID-19. So I'm gonna let Darryl share the story of how he provided the lifeline to this person and how this just goes to show you how you can't be quiet when something's going on. He just happened to be chatting with someone and found out what was going on. And then that opened the door for this person to be alive today. So, Darryl, welcome to the show. Thank you.
Oh, hold on. I think I have you on mute. Here
You
we
have
go.
him
There
on
you
mute.
go. Sorry, there you go,
I
Daryl.
have my guest on mute now, Sonia.
Sorry.
Darryl, welcome
Yes,
to the show. So,
thank you.
Darryl, listen, tell us, how did this all come about for you?
Well, so I was talking to Sonia's a family friend. We've known her. Our kids sort of grew up together. We attended church together. Our kids had the same pediatrician. So she lived a few subdivisions over, was always at the fireworks parties and the cookouts and the pool parties. And so we know each other because of kids at the same elementary school. And so um, Sharon told me that Sonia's friend Farrell wasn't doing well, and that she thought
Yeah,
perhaps,
he said the name. It's
yeah,
okay.
I don't do well with surprises,
It's okay.
that,
You're doing great. Go ahead.
that he was COVID positive. And I said, so how do you know he's COVID positive? And they said, well, he was tested. He's positive. He's at home. I said, get Sonia on the phone. I know from dealing with Dr. Ewan Johnson on behalf of several people, some of which we were able to move quickly, and they survived, and he's treated probably now nearly, it was 300 people then, now nearly 400 COVID positive patients, and they all survived. And he's a pretty phenomenal, well-educated, former educator, doctor in several disciplines, lots of credentials. I was instrumental in helping him get in front of a congressional committee to testify. So I know a lot about Dr. Ewan Johnson. So I said, get Sonia on the phone. When she got on the phone, I said, tell me what's going on. And when she told me, she sort of described it as he was at home fighting the flu and as if he was going to be okay. And I had heard that story so many times before. I got very direct with Sonia. I apologized later, but I was very direct with her, sort of like Dr. Johnson is. I probably was a little bit worse. And I said, because I know from Dr. Johnson, there's stage 1, 2, 3, and 4. And he was easily going into stage 3 because I listened when Dr. Johnson talked. So I was hearing some of the admonitions that Dr. Johnson had shared with other people. And I thought, this guy's dying. And I needed to get very frank with Sonia. So Dr. Johnson is my friend. When he sees my name come up, he answers the phone. He happened to be in his car, and thank God he answered the phone.
Amen.
And I said, we got a situation. And he said, put him on. And I put her on. And Dr. Johnson was very, very frank. He said, you are in a tough situation. And I think doctors have to be like a Dr. Johnson. If you're dying and you need intervention now, you need to hear that. And so I was very terse with Sonia, and I said, you got to move fast. We have a pharmacy relationship that we were able to, Dr. Johnson was able to take care of very, very quickly, and frankly, saved his life.
Amen. That's true.
Now, some of you may know the owner of the Red Rooster passed away from COVID.
Right.
When I got the call from a very high-ranking political figure that he was in trouble, I called Dr. Johnson. Dr. Johnson had him life-flighted. They waited so late because they didn't understand he was going into stage 3 or 4. By the time Dr. Johnson got him, he was already brain dead and couldn't do anything about it. So the window is very small. In another situation, one of my kids' in-laws' grandmother was diagnosed on a Monday, died Wednesday night. They told her, if you feel like you can't breathe, come back to the emergency room. Yeah. She died in her sleep Wednesday night. She was diagnosed that Monday before. So that business of go home and if you have trouble breathing, come back and see us, you got to not think about that. You have, as Dr. Johnson would tell you, one of your first underlying conditions is you're Black. It's a fact. You don't have the same leeway. And so he's a lot smarter than me. I'll let him tell you about that story.
Wow. Thank you, Darryl. And you know what? You are a guardian angel. We're so grateful. It's amazing how you talk about how people are put in your life long before you need them. And so it's so important that we really think about how we treat people and the deposits we make and the souls we seed into the seeds we sow into the lives of others. So you guys truly exemplify that for friends and more friends like family, and truly want to say thank you publicly for being that friend. And we'll continue to show, because I'm going to try to keep the eyes dry as long as I can. So the next person that I would like to introduce is Dr. Johnson. So Dr. Johnson, MD, it's Ewan Johnson, actually, MD, PhD, founder and CEO of Genesis Medical Diagnostics, PLLC. And Dr. Johnson actually, as Darryl said, I'm going to let him speak for himself. I'm going to go ahead and bring him on because I'm doing production and trying to interview. But Dr. Johnson, one thing before you start talking that Darryl said is that you're no nonsense. And it is a pleasure because, sometimes it got to the point where I was very careful. Like, even if I thought something different, I'm like, no, I'm not asking that question. Because if he wants me to know, he'll tell me. But we do want to go ahead and start the questions. And the first one is, what inspired you to start helping people with COVID-19?
Sonia, he's on mute.
Oh,
he's on mute.
See, I tell you, we need to hire somebody for production here.
So for the people out there who really don't know who I am, let me just sort of put it in context. Whenever you meet a doctor for the very first time, they say, give me a thumbnail sketch of where you've been. Every doctor does this to each other. Give me a thumbnail sketch of where you've been. In essence, they want to basically know your background and your education. So I'll be very quick to give you a thumbnail sketch of where I've been. I taught in HISD at what's called a high school for health professions for about 9 years. There was a man by the name of Michael DeBakey who said, you should be a doctor. And that sort of pushed me in that direction. So I have a PhD from Rice University in organic chemistry. I have an MD from the University of Texas Medical Branch in Galveston. My internal medicine training is from University of Texas Health Science Center in Houston. And I also trained at MD Anderson Cancer Center at the University of Texas MD Anderson Cancer Center. I've taken care of patients with every cancer known to man. Currently, I serve as chairman of the board of HCA Houston Healthcare in Tomball, and I also sit on the board of Harris Health System, the third largest safety net hospital system in the nation, where we care for those in Harris County that we say are most in need. It's a taxpayer-funded safety net hospital, and so we are very, very, very concerned about the health of our community. Now, I am internal medicine. I am cancer medicine, and I was cross-trained by some of the folks I've dealt with in the government to serve in the emergency room. When this pandemic occurred, I basically had the opportunity to take care of patients all over the state of Texas. And for those people, I've never said this publicly, to sort of know, where have I been in terms of places, just to give you a context, during this time when I was in the middle of the storm. Let me just pull this up, and I'll tell you these places. These are the places I've been to help out in the middle of the storm. A lot of times doctors are sick. Doctors are stricken ill by COVID-19. I see patients in the ICU. I'll see them on the floor, and I'll receive them in the ICU. So these are some of the places: Hereford, Texas; Dimmitt, Texas; Amarillo, Texas; Lockney, Texas; Lubbock, Texas; Tahoka, Texas; Winters, Texas; Ballinger, Texas; Eden, Texas; Fort Worth, Texas; Garland, Texas; Dallas, Texas; Austin, Texas; Livingston, Texas; Orange, Texas; El Campo, Texas; Corpus Christi, Texas; Kingsville, Texas; and Alice, Texas. These are places in the middle of the storm where you're reading about in the news. I was living it and worried about my own personal safety in terms of whether or not I'll get out of this alive. So this is not fake. This is very, very serious stuff. And as I've explained, I was honored recently at Commissioner's Court about COVID-19, the works that we've done. And you asked the question, how did I come about taking care of patients with COVID-19? I have my daughter who is my butterfly. I would say that she's going to, if she hears this, she'll kill me, but is my butterfly. And she came home from college early on in this pandemic. And she said, Daddy, I can't smell. I can't taste. We now know what that means now. But back then, that was new information. And so the scientist in me went to work to come up with a regimen of medication that we have on the shelf based on what we know about COVID and based on what I've seen out in my fight, in my battles with folks. And so I came up with this drug regimen. And because I know the consequences are severe, if we have 100 people in front of you, I can't predict who's going to die, but I know 5 of you will, 4 to 5 of you will. Even though you may have diabetes, not all diabetics die, not all hypertensive die, but if I have 100 people in front of me, 4 of them are going to die. And so I gave her this regimen, and by the grace of God, she recovered. She got her sense of smell back, and she recovered within a reasonable time. And subsequent to that, I had folks reach out to me and say, you know, such and such is COVID positive. Such and such is COVID positive. And I said, let's go down this road and do what we need to do. We didn't say we are curing it. The goal was to keep folks out of the hospital. Yeah. And we continue to use that regimen. We continue to see that they didn't end up in the hospital and they actually recovered and subsequently tested negative after a period of time. And so that's how it got started, and being determined to try our best to save some of the lives of the people around us. So if that answers your question.
Wow. It is real.
That did.
It is very real.
So
Very real.
what misinformation would you like to dispel about COVID-19? What's the information out there that you want to just say, that's not true?
This is not the flu. This is not the flu. I'll say this again. This is not the flu. And if you feel you're going to stay at home in your bed and fight this off, you're wrong. You're going to die. COVID-19 is not going around hunting Black people or hunting brown people. That is a misnomer. It's a behavior. If I ask you to wear your mask, wear your mask. And don't wear it over your mouth, wear it over your nose. If we ask you not to go to a party with 15 people, don't do that. If we ask you not to not have people over to your house, don't do that, because you're going to be the one in the ICU that is hypoxic, which means your oxygen saturation is low. You're tachypnic, you're breathing very fast, and we're going to end up having to put you, intubate you, which is going to further exacerbate this problem. A story that I'll always remember is an 85-year-old woman, fairly in good health, met her in the ICU. She said, I don't want to die. She was hypoxic. She was on 25 liters. She wasn't intubated. But she said, I did everything I was supposed to do. I stayed at home. I didn't go out. But she said, on my birthday, my family came out to celebrate my birthday. And she said, I checked the temperature of everybody. Nobody was symptomatic. And 5 days later, I had shortness of breath, and I went to the hospital, and they tested me. I'm COVID positive. And I said, how did you get it? She said one of her 24-year-old granddaughters was an asymptomatic viral shedder. They came to the house. They were not wearing any masks, and they came in because they all felt fine. Well, I signed her death certificate. She died from COVID-19. And so asymptomatic viral shedders, these are the people that look perfectly normal, are walking around, no fever, no symptoms, and they're shedding the virus. So wear your mask, wear your mask. This is not the flu. And it's the behaviors that we have to address in order to help this prevention. Wear your mask and wear it properly all the time.
Wow.
Go ahead.
So Dr. Johnson, what should a person do if they test positive for COVID-19?
So if you test positive for COVID-19 right now, there are no, you have to meet certain criteria to be admitted to the hospital. So if you test COVID positive right now and you went to the hospital and you went there and your oxygenation is good, 95, 96%, they're going to send you home. They're going to send you home. You do not meet criteria for admission to the hospital. They're going to send you home. And right now, we don't have an outpatient treatment for COVID-19. You hear people talking about, I'm going to take zinc and I'm going to take vitamin C. Well, if that was working, we wouldn't have 540,000 people dead. If that was working and it was an effective treatment, the numbers would be much less. It's not working. We don't have an outpatient regimen for COVID-19. When you get into trouble and you're hypoxic and you meet criteria for hospital admissions, we have remdesivir that we can use. We have convalescent plasma that we can use in the hospital. And those are approved under the emergency use authorization from the FDA. One of my goals, and you're aware of this, is try to develop an outpatient regimen for COVID-19. As I've said before, I've defined what I call the Johnson staging system for COVID-19. Johnson staging system going from 0 to 4, just like in cancer. If you have a stage 0, you have no symptoms, but you're COVID positive. If you have stage 1, you have 3 symptoms or so. If you have stage 2, you have greater than 4 symptoms, but you're not short of breath. You don't have any dyspnea, but just multiple symptoms. When you get to stage 3, you have symptoms, you're short of breath. You perceive shortness of breath or chest tightness, but you're not hypoxic. Your numbers are in the 90s, like 94. And Sonia, you now live that and know what that means. And so you're at stage 3 in that area. When you get to stage 4, you have symptoms. You are hypoxic. That means your saturation is low, is below 92, below 90. You're tachypnic. You're breathing fast. You may have a chest tightness, et cetera, et cetera. With stage 4, you clearly meet criteria for hospitalization and require hospital oxygen supplementation. When you're hypoxic, it not only affects your brain, but it affects your organ system, including your heart, and it can cause other problems, arrhythmia, and subsequently result in death. So it's not trivial. So when you get diagnosed with COVID-19, I want to make sure that you have a pulse oximeter in hand. A pulse oximeter in hand, so you can measure and know what that is. We talked about this earlier. COVID has shone a light on certain communities that don't have access to physicians, direct access to physicians. And I think moving forward, I think telemedicine is going to play an important role in individuals reaching a doctor direct 24/7. If you can bank on your phone 24/7, if you can schedule an appointment with your mechanic 24/7, or back then you could schedule a movie, reserve a movie slot for you, or a restaurant a reservation. If you can do that on your phone, why can't you talk to your doctor on the phone 24/7? So going forward, I think people in these communities that are underserved, without going through the bureaucracy of trying to make an appointment where you go in, if you can pick up the phone and push on a tab, you should be able to do that to reach a physician. And we have the technology right now where I'm sitting, I can send a prescription electronically to wherever you are in the United States. Mm-hmm. And if I can't send it electronically, I can pick up the phone and call the pharmacy in wherever and give them that prescription, and you can go pick it up. The technology's here. I think we need to take advantage of it for the people who are underserved or those most in need.
Wow. And that the oximeter, that was something that I hadn't heard before. The only symptoms that I can recall where they say you definitely need to be considering going to the hospital would be the tightness of the chest and problems breathing. So absence of that doesn't mean you're lacking oxygen. So that's why that fingertip pulse oximeter is so important. So then you can track what your oxygen is.
You can quantify it. You can quantify it.
What's a good number for the pulse oximeter?
If you're above 92, I can live with that. If you're above 92, when you start getting down below 92, I start getting worried. And that would set off my alarms for me to get you some supplemental oxygen. Just like in cancer, you start at stage 0, and it moves. If a young woman is diagnosed with breast cancer, stage 0, and we do absolutely nothing, or somebody has lung cancer and we do absolutely nothing, just sit and wait and tell them to wait and wait, that stage is going to go from 0 to 1 to 3 to 2 to 4. When it gets to 4, you know it has metastatic disease if it's a cancer, and things are very, very bad. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. When it gets to stage 4, you're in a lot of trouble. And I believe we could save a lot of lives if we identify people early and start treating them early. It will prevent the progression to go to stage 4. It would prevent individuals from causing the capacity of hospitals to be reached. And staff is overwhelmed by the number of people in the hospital. So get them early, stage 0, stage 2, treat them, and hopefully we can keep them out of the hospital. And that's the goal of my clinical trial. To the folks listening in, I want to let you know this, that COVID-19, the way it is, affects every organ system. And I will list things that I've seen. It affects the brain, it affects the thyroid, eyes, lungs, heart, liver, kidney, immune system, hematological system, your musculoskeletal system, your skin, your gastrointestinal system. It affects multiple organ systems. And you just have to listen to the symptoms that people are telling you about COVID-19, and then you'll know that it affects multiple organ systems. And the hematological system, it causes hypercoagulability, which means it causes clots to be formed. Individuals present with stroke, with pulmonary embolism, with pulmonary infarct. And that again is a problem. So one other thing I talked about when I try to explain to families is this: you don't want to get COVID-19, but when you do get COVID-19, I want you to think about this. There is something that is looming out there in your future. Think about a storm coming ashore on the Gulf Coast. The storm comes ashore. When it comes ashore in Galveston, you've got sinkholes, you've got cars that are overturned, you've got power lines down, you've got homes destroyed, you've got the roof torn off. And that storm is going to come through. And you know that storm is going to pass. That storm is going to pass. And when it does pass and you go outside, the skies are blue, the birds are singing, but what you're seeing out there, you're seeing the sinkholes, the down power lines, you're seeing the cars overturned, the homes destroyed. COVID-19, if you survive, is going to pass. And you're going to test negative, but there is stuff that you're going to have to deal with moving forward, meaning you're going to deal with the consequences of having COVID-19. And I've seen people who have not had any medical problems. They're now on oxygen 24/7. They're individuals who are now have a pacemaker. They're individuals now that are on insulin because their pancreas is blown out. And a more recent case of somebody who was hypertensive before on medicine for hypertension, and after COVID, they're no longer on medicines for hypertension. Think about that. Think about that. The depression and the confusion that is post-COVID that we see. So there's a lot more stuff that we don't know, but we're seeing the early parts of that right now.
Absolutely. Wow.
So how important is it for you to know your medical history and when it comes to COVID and possibly talking to the doctor or talking to the person that's going to be taking care of you?
So I tell you this, you understand your doctors are very, very, very sophisticated people, and it makes their job a lot easier when you show up and have knowledge of your medical history without them having to go and retrieve it from some other place where they may or not get a complete story. The story is very important. So I know what your allergies are. I know what your medications that you're taking. I know the correct spelling of your medication. So for the folks out there, I would like you to create a medical diary. A medical diary. So when you go to the doctor's office, I have my patients up in North Houston, when they show up, they've pre-printed this on a sheet of paper, and they have all of this stuff going back. It's stored on their computer, and they print it out when they come in. And I just look at it, and I have an instant sense of where they've been, the past, what they're on currently, and I know how to treat them. And it allows a more educated approach to caring for you. If we're guessing about your health, it tells us something about how you view your health. So I would, your health is probably one of the most important things that you have. And I think the communities we're talking to should make a priority to document their medical history in a form that is accessible. You can keep it on your phone, and you have it with you at all times. And so when you go to the doctor, keep it in a note file, and you just pull it up and say, "Hey, doc, take a look at it. This is where I've been. These are my allergies," and that is impressive. That is very impressive and very helpful. So moving forward, I would like to see that. Go ahead, Darryl.
Let me make a comment. I think one of the things in this particular case that was most helpful was, though Dr. Johnson was in his car driving 60 miles an hour down the freeway, he was very able to assess the situation quickly because he has routine questions. And the caregiver, in this case Sonia, had answers. He says, what's his blood pressure? She knew it. He said, what's his temperature? She said it. He said, what's his pulse rate and oximeter? Who usually has an oximeter, right? She had all those things, and he asked her probably 10 questions, and she answered them immediately. That, I think, was a game changer in this particular case, because normally, if the patient is talking, you got to kind of waddle through what they're saying because they're not feeling well and things are going on. In this case, you had an educated caregiver that answered all the questions immediately. And he was able to say, here's what's happening. You got a really bad situation. You got to do thus and so. I heard the conversation because we were on a three-way, and it was very perfunctory. It was very to the point. And within an hour, less than an hour, she was on the road down Kirkendall to the pharmacy. I called the pharmacy ahead of her, thinking, let me go over here and see what I can do to help. She had already left the pharmacy. All this took place within maybe an hour and a half, or within an hour and 15 minutes of me calling Dr. Johnson. She had the medicine in her hand, because we have a friend who owns a pharmacy, a Procure pharmacy on Kirkendall, Black female-owned pharmacy. She within an hour, she had the medicine in her hand. You can't beat that. That's because the caregiver was able to answer very direct questions.
Absolutely, and they were able to get access to oxygen. I've got some folks out there who have been helpful during this time, and the home health store up here in Tomball, and they were on it to get the oxygen out in less than an hour, and that saved him from going to the hospital. The individual we were talking about, because we ramped it up to probably almost 5 liters already, and under normal circumstances you would be in the hospital. And I said, look, you're going to be the ICU right now. You are going to be the ICU, and I'm going to manage you via telemedicine. What you've got to do, you will do everything I'm telling you to do, and don't be creative. Do not be creative. I want to know what medications he's taking, and if he's taking any, I need you to suspend those medications right now. Vitamins, minerals, all of that, stop it. And let's go on and do what we need to do to get us out of harm's way.
Okay, Sonia, I think you guys kind of all know the story, but since I wasn't there, our audience wasn't there, we don't know the story. So if you can kind of tell us, maybe we can go ahead and tell what part you played in this surprise person, and then get ready to introduce them, because I'm like, okay, Sonia did this and Sonia
Okay, so I guess part of it is we can probably go ahead and introduce the person.
Yay!
And Kay, would you like to introduce him? I thought you have to introduce him.
Yes,
Please go ahead and introduce him.
Excited and delighted and grateful and thankful to introduce our surprise guest who had to just show out and get COVID. But Farrell Phelps, welcome to the show. We're so excited to see you. We've been talking about you. We've been talking about you behind your back right here. But welcome to the show, Farrell. Man, we love you. We're just so glad that you're okay. So thankful that you're okay. So we're going to kind of share the backdrop of the story first. Sonia's going to let us know. We got the part where Sonia called Darryl because she thought we know you had COVID. So Sonia, you want to take it from here, and then you and Farrell can kind of.
Absolutely. So actually, I had spoken to Sharon, and Sharon called. Well, she, I guess, heard how devastated I was, and she called Darryl, and they called me the next day. And what I want to say is that I had cared for Farrell for 7 days at that point, based on what I knew, the stuff that you check there. I was checking all the vitals. He had a temperature, a fever every now and then, and a headache. But we were able to eliminate the fever or control it with over-the-counter medication. So in my mind, okay, we're doing good. We just got to get past these days. The thinking out there is you get past those 14 or whatever days of quarantine, and you've made it through the storm. So, and during that time, Farrell wasn't complaining of any chest pain. He wasn't complaining of having issues breathing. Again, it was more so the headaches and the fevers off and on. And he was really tired. And everything that.
Lethargic is the word we would use. Lethargic.
Right. Lethargic. And in my mind, they use the word fatigue a lot during COVID. They say that, oh, you're going to be fatigued, but, you just push yourself, and later you'll start to feel better and you'll get stronger. So in my mind, we're at day 7, and I'm like, okay, we're here. You don't have chest pains. You're breathing. You're saying that you're not having trouble breathing. So we're doing good on day 7. But he just said he just could not, just to see his face and his eyes were saying something different. In my layman mind, I was like, okay, he's okay. But his eyes even looked different. How he was looking at me, trying to communicate to me how he really felt. And so the only thing that kept coming out is this. I mean, just the littlest thing he did, he was exhausted. So that really alarmed me that something else is going on.
He couldn't walk, he couldn't walk, and he couldn't stand.
No,
and he got out of breath with the slightest bit of exertion.
Yes, he could not. And the reason for this initial contact was me watching him suffer. And I actually was calling my friend Sharon to plead with her to take the vaccine. That's how this all started. It wasn't me saying, hey, this is what's going on with Farrell, we need help. It was me saying, please, and just being devastated at the thought of somebody not thinking of doing the vaccine based on what I was seeing happening with my own eyes. And so then, as Darryl mentioned, Sharon got Darryl on the phone, Darryl got Dr. Johnson on the phone, and then Dr. Johnson immediately, after asking me all those questions, immediately said, you go get these things. And he said, forget anything you know about medicine. COVID is something different. Don't do anything but what I tell you to do. And so that's how we all came to be and why we're here today. And, Dr. Johnson, after we got the medication, I gave it and I let him know we got the medication. And then he asked me to check his oxygen again. And it was not where he was comfortable. So immediately he said, we need to get him on oxygen. So like he said, had just minutes, hours. We don't know how much time Farrell actually had. But because of the fast action and being able to have access and get what he needed, he was put on oxygen. And then all the way up 5, and that scared me. To think that somebody's at the highest level and they're still struggling breathing. You're at the highest level of oxygen and there's nowhere else to go. Think about that. There's nowhere else to go but that. You're getting as much help as that machine's going to give you.
So he would probably be in the hospital, and he probably would be intubated based on where we're going. And so intubation a lot of times causes more damage to the lungs. And so you don't want to go there. And so that's what I was worried about. So I'm glad we had the oxygen in time. I'm glad you called in time, and we were able to do what we needed to do in time.
Yes. So Farrell, you tell us from where you sit about your experiences. Nobody knows it like you do.
Yes. Thank you. First off, I want to say to Darryl and to Dr. Johnson, I have so much gratitude towards you guys. Thank you all. I would not be here had you guys not intervened as quickly as you did. I will forever be grateful for you, and I appreciate it. I wanted to say that first. I do have trouble breathing, so I may sound a little weird while I'm talking. And many people want to know how I got it. And I'll just give you a quick synopsis as to how it evolved. I was at work on a Friday, just photographed my friend, and that was on Friday. And on Sundays, I had gotten a phone call saying that I should go get tested because one of them had been tested and got sick later on and had gone to the emergency room and had COVID and to go get tested myself. I went that Sunday to the emergency room and was diagnosed as positive. Initially, I felt that based on things that I heard and things that I've seen, that I could go to, quarantine, you know, um, and go through the process of feeling bad before I began to feel better. And this was based on the knowledge, the limited knowledge that I had. And so I shared that with Sonia, that I was going to, go to an extended stay for a week and go through this process and move forward, thinking that I would be okay. And it didn't happen like that. And Sonia demanded that I come to her immediately, and I did. Then the ball started rolling. Um, and the first day, that Monday, because I'd heard people say that, the doctors say that make sure you stay active. Don't just get this bad information and then lay in the bed. And so on that Monday, I told Sonia, I said, I think I feel pretty good. I think I want to ride my bike. And for those of you that know me, I'm an avid bike rider. It's one of the things I do. And she said, well, if you're going to ride, let's go with you. And we went for a ride. And I did a quick turn over a speed bump. Didn't know that it was oil on the speed bump. And I just instantly crashed the ground. But I'll start up, just a mess. Got back to the house, and I felt okay. And following day, that Tuesday, that's when things started to take a downfall. And I began to actually feel sick. And so that's when we started. The fever came, and then I would get excruciating headaches that would go along with it. One of the things that was the worst, there's a lot of bad things, make no mistake, but one of the things that was the worst for me in this process was, number one, the headache. Number two, the fact that I could not sleep. So I basically didn't sleep for probably like 6 days or 7 days or something.
No, it was weeks.
It was weeks.
Yeah,
a
couple of weeks. You hadn't really slept very much.
Yeah, and then when I would see night coming, I would become afraid, because every night I would have a nightmare while I'm awake, and these different voices began to say different things in the midst of me just laying there in darkness. I became afraid of the dark, and I had to have light coming into my space so that I wouldn't freak out. And that was probably one of the scariest times for me. And I really had to talk to myself in this process. A lot of self-talk takes place when you're dealing with life and death. And also, just so you guys know this as well, once Dr. Johnson came on the phone, Dr. Johnson didn't hold back on what was happening. And he said to me, immediately, you're literally dying right now. And just to hear those words, just to hear someone tell you that you're dying, that was devastating. That was devastating. And he began to give us the solution and what we could do to tell this thing so that I would not die. And
so a lot of what we did, as we move forward through this COVID, telemedicine is now important. Telemedicine, to be able to use audio and visual to actually interact with people and make recommendations on their treatment. So telemedicine, he was still in his home. We didn't take him to the hospital, and basically had somebody there that I can direct, and had help from outside, whether it's a DME company or a pharmacy, to help him provide the equipment and what we need. And then monitoring. She was communicating with me around the clock on important things that I asked her to check on, and making adjustments on the oxygen as needed. And then I was prepared at any time if, in fact, he exceeded my threshold for comfort, I would say, this is time now. Again, you didn't know this contingency plan. It's time now to call 911 for you to go to the ICU. And what's going to happen there is that you're going to the hospital to be intubated, to be put asleep and intubated. That's where we were. That contingency I didn't tell you but we tried to avoid that. And Sonia, you did really well in following the instructions and not being very creative. And we managed to weather the storm. And when we eventually said, I want you to adjust this oxygen down to 4 liters. And then we start to descend. And then I say, today's the day he's off oxygen. And then let me know how he does. And then for him to come back and say that he tested negative. And remember, I told you about the late effects of COVID. You're going to have stuff. I don't know what it is yet.
Right.
One of them we discussed, maybe you can tell us about that, Sonia, about Darryl, in terms of one of the effects of COVID for him already that we know.
Oh, for Farrell, what's going on right now?
Yeah, with the blood pressure.
Oh, that's actually like a testimony.
Yeah, in itself.
Farrell, you want to go ahead and tell?
Oh yeah, I mean, I was on I've been on blood pressure medicine for many years, and so when Dr. Johnson had prescribed the cocktail that I was taking, over a period of time, my blood pressure, I stopped taking blood pressure during the course of taking the medicines that Dr. Johnson had prescribed, and then once those medicines ended, this time has passed, and my blood pressure is normal without any blood pressure medicine at all now. And so that was one of the effects that happened to me, and that's a positive thing. And so it's really interesting how it affects and works on different people differently.
His blood pressure was low to begin with during the COVID storm. So Sonia did the right thing and not giving him the blood pressure, because that could have exacerbated things. Right. And so his blood pressure was very low while even before I saw him. And so subsequent, now he's negative. His blood pressure is normal. He's not on any blood pressure medicine to the best of my knowledge. So again, the stuff that comes after, this is, yeah. Yeah.
And as you know already, Dr. Johnson, because we discussed it, I think yesterday, about one of the side effects for me is the nosebleeds. And I blow my nose often because of it, and then also coughing up some mucus and blood from my chest as well. And this has been some of the things for me that has been, I guess, like a lingering effect of COVID. Like you said, after the storm passes, there's still damage that's done and things that will need to be addressed in the midst of it all. And so for me, that's been one of the things. And I want to tell you guys while we're talking now too, it was interesting because I did the meter, right?
Pulse oximeter.
Oximeter.
Yes.
Yeah. So show everybody that again, because I talked about it, but you had it, so I could show what it was. That's the little gadget that you measure the saturation of oxygen in your bloodstream. That's the thing that everybody needs to get. If you go to the doctor, they clip it on your index finger to get your pulse. That's the thing that you guys need to make sure you have.
Yeah, and so yes, it's very important. And so while we were on the show, I had it on my finger to kind of monitor myself, and it went up to 97, and then it dropped. That was the highest that I've had the entire time that I've been going through the process. And so I was pretty excited about that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that was the highest that I've had. So, man, this whole thing just gets me emotional. I was trying to keep myself together, but it just ain't happening.
It's okay. It's okay.
I want to say also to Sonia, because Sonia was my caregiver this whole time. And there were so many nights, there were sleepless nights for her, getting up in the middle of the night to check on me. And I know she went just as much as I did, trying to save me, trying to spare me. And she was so tired so many nights, so many times. But she was up and there for me. And babe, I just love you for that. And I appreciate you for that. And I just want to say it publicly. Yeah, it's really been a tough journey, and I'm still dealing with it because I can only do so much before I become tired and have to catch my breath, these types of things. But every day I can see subtle improvements happen. So I'm claiming that I'm going to be back up in full force in the very near future.
All right.
That's beautiful.
That's wonderful.
Beautiful. Sonia was keeping us updated every couple of hours and sending out update texts. And we were texting her back saying, hey, what's going on? Just to make sure we stayed in the loop and make sure the village was still working. And the village worked. And Charlotte Smith at the pharmacy, Dr. Johnson and his relationships with the oxygen, you know, someone sounded the alarm and the rest of us came running. You know, be that Paul Revere. You got to be that Paul Revere. You got to be that Sonia that has information that's helpful. I'm telling you, if he'd have asked all those questions and you'd have said, I don't know, Dr. Johnson would not have known what to do. You were so prepared. I'm telling you.
Yes, you were.
Right. That was impressive.
Very impressive. And you know, this model that we've created during this time, if you think about it, if we can maintain a model like this moving forward, we could, I think, save a lot of people out there who may not have the direct access that you've had. If this model can be duplicated and we have this take use of telemedicine and have access to pharmacies and folks like this, we can help a lot of people, whether it's COVID or something else. So I want us out there to think about how we could put together a network that can help folks in communities that are basically underserved.
And while we're on this, before we get to the question and answer part of this, one of the things that I would like to talk about, and it's kind of a sensitive issue, but it's the vaccine. We need to talk about the vaccine. So initially, one of the reasons that I was able to care for Farrell is because I was fully vaccinated. It had been. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to care for him. And initially, Farrell, where were you at? You were on the fence, right?
I was on the fence, and Sonia and I talked about it. And I'm like, babe, I don't know. I'm still kind of thinking about this thing. And I was unsure and I was uncertain. And I was operating in fear. And I was also operating on things that had happened in the past that we had talked about, Dr. Johnson, as well. And so I was on the fence with it. And I'm very careful. I had been very careful. I'm very careful in my studio. I wear my mask with my clients and all of that. And I was as protective of myself as I could possibly be. But after this has happened, of course, when you're faced with life and death, not knowing if you're going to make it, not knowing if you're going to survive, you come to a different place, you know. And I'm in a different place now. And I'm so thankful to Dr. Johnson and Darryl for the connection and getting me where I'm at right now. And I'm looking forward to getting the vaccine afterwards in the time that has to be allowed once you are diagnosed as positive with COVID. So, but yeah, I was on the fence, and being on the fence actually nearly cost me my life.
So, you know, I know I'm a physician, but I'm also a scientist. I'm an MD, and I'm also a PhD. I'm one of those people who develop knowledge for what we do in medicine as the PhD side. I know about the history with respect to things like Tuskegee, where minorities were treated poorly with respect to research. We now have this vaccine that has been evaluated. And I know folks talk about emergency use authorization. It hasn't completely been tested on millions of people. And as a result, they're not going to take a chance of taking this vaccine because it was issued via emergency use authorization. And the questions I've asked other patients that if they were hypoxic, which means their oxygen saturation was 50, and they were admitted to the hospital, the indication for them would be remdesivir. Remdesivir is a drug, antiviral that is indicated for people who are hospitalized, who are stage 4. And I would ask them, would you take it? And they said, of course I would take it. But remdesivir is issued under emergency use authorization, the same as the vaccine. So, I've had my 2 shots without hesitation. My boys and girls have had their shots without hesitation. And if I can recommend this for my daughter and my 2 sons, the answer is yes. I'm comfortable with moving forward with getting your vaccine. The vaccine will not prevent you from getting COVID. Some people can still get COVID even though they've been vaccinated. That's been documented. But it may save your life, and it may also reduce some of the stuff that we talk about. Remember the after effects. It may help ameliorate, reduce that kind of side effects of the COVID virus once you get the vaccine. So I'm advocating for all of the folks looking in to get the vaccine. Don't overthink it. Get the vaccine. Put the politics aside. This is about medicine. Get the vaccine.
Right.
One of the things I wanted to mention as it pertains to the vaccine is that we do know we all have personal choice, and this is a personal decision. But in many ways, it really is not. It's personal because it's your body. But if you have family members, what happens to you, they're going to be affected by it. Are you going to affect them? I know stories. I have a friend that's a gynecologist. At his practice, one of his nurses was tested positive, and she took it home to her mother and her brother. Her mother died. Her brother is still very ill. So that's a lot. So and Farrell, I want to speak to you on that.
Right.
Farrell, your biggest concern when you tested positive was what?
Right. Like I mentioned before, I had that shoot on Friday. On Saturday morning, I had given my mother a hug and a kiss and everything like I would normally do. So that was on Saturday, one day after that shoot that we've talked about. And then on Saturday morning to get that news, on Sunday morning to get the news that I needed to go get tested, I was totally devastated because I was in fear that what if I gave it to my mother on Saturday when I gave her a hug and kiss on the forehead, and I was on pins and needles about that. And so I reached out to her and I reached out to my sister and told them what was going on and that they needed to get tested immediately. Thank God that it came back negative and they were fine. And neither of them had the shot. And afterwards, I convinced them that they had to get the shot. And so they have both taken a shot and they're waiting on the second shot, the time for the second shot. And that was my experience there, which was very scary to even think about possibly bringing harm to the person that brought me into this world that absolutely are doing. So that was a scary moment for me.
Darryl, I want to share with you that I had the same reservations. I know the Tuskegee story, and I read the other stories. I'm an avid reader, and I'm a news junkie, and I'm also a 2-time cancer survivor, type 2 diabetic with high blood pressure. I took the shots. I was very careful. I called MD Anderson, where I'm an alumni, and I said, "What do you recommend?" And they shared their research with me. I waited till 50 million other people took the shot, and then I took the Pfizer shot. I had all those feelings you had, probably more, because I'm pretty anal about stuff like that. And I took the shot. I'm not saying that what you felt didn't matter. I'm just saying what Dr. Johnson said to me was rational for me. And so I took the shot. I had some of the same issues you have, except I'm a 2-time cancer survivor.
Okay.
I've had no side effects.
Wow. And I think that varies person to person. And here's something, this might be trivial in my head as it deals with social media. Or in general, they say that, the tongue, you have to be careful sometimes what you speak because it's impacting people differently. For example, if you're a person that you took the vaccine, you made a choice to take the vaccine and you had side effects. Okay. But guess what? You had flu the next day, flu symptoms next day or two, you felt better. You've had the vaccine, so you're protected, at least first shot, second shot, whatever. But think about it. If you then make it negative about your experiences, it could affect that person that's on the fence and push them way to the other side where they don't get protected at all. But you've got your protection. And now they're saying, see, that's why I'm not going to get it. So I think we have to be very careful.
One more thing, Darryl. I'll share with you what my good friend Ernie Jackson said to me. He said that flu shot beats a damn intubator.
Got you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Beats the hell out of being intubated.
Dr. Johnson, have there been any cases of people dying from the vaccine?
He's muted.
He's not muted. Oh, yeah, let me unmute him again. Somehow he got muted. Okay. You unmute yourself? Okay, there you go, Dr. Johnson. There you go.
All right. Remember, hundreds of millions of doses have been administered, and the number of people that have actually died from some adverse reaction is you can count on one hand. And so it's very, very small. There are people who have died from the use of aspirin, just to give you an example. So it's very, very small, very, very small. So the answer is yes, a very, very small percentage have. But the 99.999% of the individuals, they may have an effect 24 hours after, a sore arm or a rash, but they move on and they're fine. And they're fine. So for those people looking in and that may be on the fence, I would say take the vaccine. If you're a college student, I would say that you'll see in the future where colleges are going to advocate that you will have to get the vaccine before you can enroll in the school. I imagine very soon we may see certain employers saying as a condition of participation in this job, you will have the vaccine, et cetera, moving forward. Do we know if this is going to be an annual thing or something you do every 2 years? We don't know yet. We're still working out the details. Research is still underway. But in the interim, I would recommend that you, if you're on the fence, get the vaccine and protect everybody around you from this virus.
Awesome. So,
and I wanted to add too, when we were talking about the different things that happened with me in this process, I also lost 16 pounds while I've been sick as well. So that was another effect for me. And a lot of that I know had to do with appetite and lack thereof as well. But that was another thing that happened with me too.
And that's Darryl, and that's Farrell. That's something we see with a lot of the COVID-19 patients, where they're massive weight loss. It burns up a lot of calories during the course of. So 16 pounds for you. I don't know what your body weight was when you started, what that represented, but it might be as much as 10% of your body weight that you lost during this COVID, and that's not unusual.
Yeah.
I know many of you guys are on the line and you guys want to ask some questions. So I think we're going to, in lieu of time, we're going to go ahead and see if we can get some questions answered. I'm going to put up the phone number. You can put in your comments. On the comments, we already have some that we can read, but you can also call in. We can go to, Kay, are you able to see the comments?
Yes, I don't see any questions. I see comments. People
More
saying,
comments.
Yeah, I've got the vaccine to protect people I love. I've had my vaccine. Just prayers for Farrell. Everybody loves you, Farrell.
Yeah.
Thank God for Sonia. Yes, Dr. Johnson is amazing.
Yes.
Uh,
Grateful.
just lots of comments.
All
So
right.
they
If you
are
guys have any
enjoying the
questions,
information.
you guys can call in or put a question in the comment there, and we'll try to get some of those questions before the end of the broadcast here. This
And
is
so
something. Go ahead, Dr. Johnson.
one of the things I wanted to make sure we put in, remember I said early on, currently there are no outpatient treatments for folks diagnosed with COVID-19. Currently, what's underway for me is working with the FDA to launch a trial for the regimen that we use for those individuals that are diagnosed with stages 1 through 3 COVID-19. So when we get the clearance and approval from the FDA, we'll come back and probably share that with you, and then start recruiting. And hopefully we can get some people from our community for them to participate. I will be the principal investigator looking at this trial and monitoring every aspect of it. And I can assure you it's going to be conducted in an ethical manner as we move forward.
We have a question there, Dr. Johnson. It says, how much protection does the first vaccination shot give a person?
Yeah, how much protection does the first vaccination? The research was done on 2. Remember, the immune system, once you get the vaccine, it basically activates the immune system and creates memory for the immune system. The second vaccination that you get basically tests the immune system and further activate it so you will have protection. So the studies that were done were with the two vaccines, for the Moderna and for the Pfizer. And so for you to just get one half of it, it's not complete because the research was done with both vaccines separated by a number of weeks. So I would say for you, get the second shot to complete the process, and then you will have the full protection. I think it was 96 or 97% effective, the Moderna. So I would say get both shots.
We have another question.
I have a question from a caller. She says,
Okay.
Once you've been vaccinated, what's the procedure? Can you go out and not wear a mask now, not practice social distancing? What's your behavior like after you've been vaccinated?
After you've been vaccinated, I want you to continue to wear a mask. I want you to continue to wear a mask. Continue to wear a mask to protect yourself, because we've seen some evidence right now where individuals, even though they have been vaccinated, have tested positive, true test PCR positive for COVID-19. So that has occurred already.
And I had been vaccinated for quite a while, and I still wore a mask when I was taking care of Farrell. So, because it, wouldn't did any good for us both to be sick. I mean, that's not. What's the question on that screen? Can you guys read that?
Yeah. What's the doc's opinion on
hydroxychloroquine?
Hydroxychloroquine. The research so far does not support the use of hydroxychloroquine with respect to COVID-19. Again, the research that has been done does not support the use of hydroxychloroquine for COVID-19 treatment on an outpatient basis.
Okay.
Wow.
Awesome. And we have one.
booster shots?
After both these vaccines, we'll have a booster shot.
So again, the data is still being worked out. We still don't have that yet. We've just, managed to get over 100 million people vaccinated, and the research is underway to see how long does this immunity last? Is it going to be 24 months or is it going to be 12 months? And once that data is available, then just like the flu we do annually, it's very possible we may have to do an annual shot for COVID-19.
Is one
vaccine better than the other? And is the Johnson & Johnson vaccine dangerous? From Paul Brink.
So we've seen some individuals with the Moderna and the Pfizer, they've had some reactions. We've read recently about the Johnson & Johnson vaccine where there's some evidence of thromboembolism. They had a pause on it for a couple of weeks, and they've reviewed it, and they basically said we may proceed with it. I would say individual preferences. I would say get the vaccine, whichever one shows up. Again, I go back to aspirin. You can have an adverse reaction with aspirin, and you can die from using aspirin. Any medication that you put in your body, you can have an adverse reaction associated with it. So again, with the hundreds of millions of people that have been vaccinated, you have 4 or 5 that have reactions due to some reason, genetic polymorphism or other. It doesn't mean you're going to throw the entire thing out.
Awesome. Let's see. Any more questions? If you have any more questions out there from our listening audience, and we're so thankful you guys have tuned in. And if you know somebody that's not on here, please make sure you share this. And that's why we were so adamant about asking you guys to share and try to make sure you're on here. This is really valuable information. There's so much misinformation out there.
Yeah.
And the thing is, they're going to be learning about this. Like they call the long haulers, Dr. Johnson. Can you speak about that? You did a little bit, but can you kind of section that as to how they pertain? They talk about it in the, in communications and ads and on the news. They talk about the long haulers.
When you say the long haulers, what do you mean?
I think people that have the long haul effect, the long term,
long-term effects.
Yeah.
The long-term effects of the COVID. Once so stories. You've heard about Farrell and his hypertension. I tell you stories about individuals who were diagnosed with COVID-19 who were healthy. What I'm thinking of is a 39-year-old woman who had no previous medical history, was diagnosed with COVID, and came to our emergency room with a blood sugar of 1,200. And when we evaluated her, she was in something called diabetic ketoacidosis. Bottom line, her pancreas took a hit, we believe, from the COVID-19, and she was not producing enough insulin. And so she may have to be administered insulin for the rest of her life. That's to be seen. We have individuals who developed COVID-19 who have developed congestive heart failure and now requiring a pacemaker or a defibrillator. We've seen that. We've seen individuals who have developed pulmonary issues and require supplemental oxygen moving forward. Late effects of COVID-19. We've had a 37-year-old man who came into the emergency room with right-sided weakness. Right side, his arm and legs were unable to move. Scan of his brain was unremarkable. He was COVID positive. MRI later showed evidence consistent with a stroke. COVID-19. No other medical issues. Late effects of COVID-19.
Wow.
And so it's doing things to the body. Hypercoagulable state, where people have pulmonary embolism, which means a clot in the lung. Pulmonary infarction, strokes. We've had individuals who suffered heart attacks due to the COVID, and they're previously healthy. And somebody 30 years old or 25 years old with a heart attack shouldn't happen. But these are some of the things we're seeing.
We have another question here, Dr. Johnson. It says, my son and I were just recently exposed to someone who was just diagnosed positive with COVID this morning. We are both fully vaccinated. Do we still need to isolate? Not certain how to move forward.
Yeah. I would say isolate. I would say wait a couple days and just to test yourself to make sure that you're negative. The vaccine is going to reduce the severity, if you get it, the severity of the COVID-19. But because you were exposed to be safe, I would say just wait a couple days after being quarantined and then just test and make sure you're negative. And if you're in doubt, I've had this conversation with Sonia. If you're in doubt, the person who just wrote this question, If you had a daughter and she just gave birth to a small child with immune system that's compromised, and knowing what we know about you and your son, you were both vaccinated and you were just both exposed to somebody who's positive, would you want to go over to that home where that child is to have dinner? Ask yourself that question. Your daughter just gave birth and she has a child who is immunocompromised, and you've just been exposed to someone even though you were vaccinated. Would you want to go over there tonight to have dinner? Ask yourself that and let me know what your answer is.
Wow.
Wow. And Dr. Johnson, that's the same thing you mentioned about how some employers are asking their employees to come back to work before they test negative. That's
correct.
Kind of the same scenario you mentioned to me earlier. That was very interesting what you said.
Well, it's the same thing, the same idea. You're an employer, somebody tested positive, and they were been out for 10 days. The CDC did say that you can return after a certain number of days without a test. But then I would ask the employee that you're going to bring back into your workplace, I will give you $100 a day for him to come to your house and stay with you and your family in your house and have dinner with you. Would you let him do that?
Probably not.
No. Yeah.
Wow.
And Michelle says she
Would you
got
let
it.
him do
So they're going to isolate. So that's good. Good job.
One of the a question that I have, Dr. Johnson,
I'm having some technical.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. I don't know if he froze.
He's having
Okay.
some technical difficulties.
Okay, I'm having some technical difficulties.
We can hear you. You're just frozen, I think.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Yeah,
you.
we can hear you.
Uh-huh.
There you go.
So I'll proceed with the question. I've heard it said that once you have it and you've recovered from it, that your body builds up antibodies against it that will help you if you encounter it again. Is that, I'd like to he's gone.
He's probably going to log back on.
Yeah, and but that's what I've heard. Yeah, I'm sure he'll be back. One of the things, Sonia, that I would also like to say.
Okay, here you go. There he is.
All right, go ahead with your question. I'm trying using another medium.
Okay, yeah. The question was, once you have COVID, I've heard it said that your body has the antibodies that will help you fight it if you get it again. How true is that?
Your body will produce antibodies, true, but whether or not it's protective, the research needs to demonstrate that. We haven't proven that yet.
Okay.
And so I want you to think about that. If you've had COVID, your body produces antibodies that will be protective. If that were the case, then you wouldn't need the vaccine because that antibody would be solely protective. So at this stage of the game, we know that that's not true, and that's why you need the vaccine to offer you that protection.
Right. And another thing too that I would like everybody to know is that during the course of this, Sonia has tested 3 different times, and each time her test came back negative. And we're certain that it's due to the fact that she was vaccinated.
And wearing a mask.
And wearing a mask 24/7 during this time. So I wanted to say that as well.
Very good, Sonia. And this is PCR testing that you've done?
Yes.
Very good. Very good.
Yes. Those are not fun, but they're worth it to see where you're at, instead of guessing. And I would recommend everybody that, because I know for a fact a lot of people early on last year when they were positive, you never heard about them testing negative. So I don't know if those people just started feeling better and started walking around, So I think we need to get more information out there about making sure people retest to make sure they are indeed negative, because we do know friends that have retested and still tested positive.
Yeah. And I was really glad this week to get the news that I tested negative. After we got the results on Tuesday. We went on Monday, and I was really excited that I tested negative. So now it's just a matter of dealing with Dr. Johnson, like you said earlier, the aftermath,
the late effects of COVID-19.
Yeah,
absolutely. And that's something we're going to deal with for a long time. months, not weeks, months.
I hate to hear that.
I'm sorry to tell you that.
So if we have a loved one that is tested positive for COVID and we want to have the treatment where we can treat them in home, what's the procedure? What's the route we need to go? Is there already a process in place, or is that what you're working on?
Working on it.
Right, we're working on that. We're working on that right now. We don't have a cure for COVID-19. We don't have a treatment regimen that's approved by the FDA. We're working on a clinical trial right now, and once we have approval of this regimen that we're using, we can basically make this available to everyone worldwide. If in fact the science shows that it's effective. I know.
No, I mean being treated at home, like Sonia did, so we don't have to take our loved ones to the hospital. How do we treat them at home?
Well, it's important for them to notify someone early on. I mean, if you're stage 4 and you're requiring more than 5 liters of oxygen, you're going to be in the hospital. So I think you should start getting treatment early and not think you're going to fight it out. So I think I've left a contact information there with Sonia. They could reach out to her. She could route it through, and we'll try and help some of these individuals.
Okay, yeah. So Sonia, you're going to put that up?
At the end of the show, it's basically they're going to just contact us through the show, Your Voice Talk Show at Gmail, and I'll put that up here. Right now, we will fill the information.
We are not advertising any kind of cure, or we're going to help you with the symptoms and keep you out of the hospital. That's the goal. Until we have approval, we do not have any formal treatment, but we will help you keep you out of the hospital. That's our goal.
Sonia, can you go back to that question before you put that up?
Yes, that was a good question. I will go back to that question.
That was a good question.
1 second. Let me go back to Lori's question. Here it is. Okay.
Can you see it?
Yeah. How do you talk to loved ones who are just adamant about not getting the vaccine without getting an argument? Tips around talking points, please.
Wow. Without getting into an argument. That's very, very tough. It's their body. It's their body. Patients' rights. They have a right to decide what goes into their body. You can present all of the facts to them. You know, there's an old saying, forgive me, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't force him to drink. With all that's going out there, and 540,000 people have died, 540 or more have died, and we're telling you that the vaccine will offer some protection for you and reduce the risk of you developing late effects. These are facts, and we're going to present them to you, and hopefully you can make an informed decision about it. If you choose not to, if you choose not to, my friends in the emergency room and in the ICU will be happy to take care of you when you show up, including possible intubation.
And Dr. Johnson, is it true that each hospital has like different protocol and ways that they're treating COVID?
I can't answer that. As I sit where I am at HCA Houston Tomball, we have a team that's dedicated to treating COVID-19 for the patients who arrive. These are all people who meet criteria for inpatient. And we have various regimen that we're using, whether it's convalescent plasma, whether it's remdesivir. I can say about RHCA Hospital that we're doing an effective job in saving lives for those patients who show up. So it's good to know. HCA Houston Tomball is where I serve as chairman of the board of the hospital, and I know what we're doing there.
Awesome. Well, it is 6:31, and this is one of those topics, and I want to say thank you to everyone. I want to say thank you, Dr. Johnson, thank you, Darryl, thank you, Kay, for the short turnaround, because, and Farrell for being transparent and wanting to really be a testimony and to make a difference. Timing wasn't ideal to do this right away, but I just felt it was crucial. We felt it was crucial. The sooner, the better, to get this information out, to maybe inform and give people more information so they can make better, decisions best for them and their family. So that was we were literally still, we're like you said, through the storm, but we're still dealing with
the aftermath,
effects of
the after effects.
Yeah.
So Farrell, let me say this: I've never met you before. I hope to meet you soon.
Yes,
I'm glad to have participated and in your survival of COVID, and I'm glad to have had the opportunity to introduce you to Dr. Ewan Johnson. And he is a good brother. I'm telling you, he's a good man and a good brother. He jumped on it for you.
Absolutely.
He had never heard your name before. He had never heard your name before, but he jumped on it. You just can't beat that. The village showed up. That's
the
village showed up for you, my brother.
And the village showed up in such an amazing way that I'm still here. And Darryl, I am forever grateful to you for the role that you played in connecting us to Dr. Johnson, and then Dr. Johnson, for you taking the bull by the horn and guiding us through the process and guiding Sonia through the process. I am so appreciative to you guys. I can't explain how appreciative, because I'm still here. It could have been a totally different narrative. And Dr. Johnson and Darryl, I think I told both you guys that dinner is on me. I am taking both of you guys out to dinner once I get to the next level.
Now you're talking. Now you're talking.
And I'm going to get.
Hey, Dr. Johnson, he finally got to the
most high.
But let me add this. To Sonia. What do I say? I want to meet her because when I talk to her, sometimes Darryl is not in the room. When I talk to her and say, "You are my nurse, and your home, wherever you are, is now the ICU. I need you to listen to me. And I don't want you to be creative, and I don't want you to do anything that we haven't talked about. Because if you do, things are going to go very badly. Yeah. So I need you to do this, even may sound very, very painful." And she followed my instructions. She provided me with timely updates, and we were able to make corrections and changes. And here we are.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
But during that time, it was very difficult. It was very tense. It was very tense.
Very, very tense.
And then, as we mentioned, that we're tied to the hip. So whatever that comes up, or whatever you need, Dr. Johnson, for us further to spread the word, to lend our skills, talent, whatever there is, we're all in to make a difference, which is why we're here today. So thank you.
As Darryl mentioned, the village. This village model could save a lot of lives in our community if we can reproduce this.
Yeah. So we're going to come back and talk about that with the next stages. We're going to have some praise reports about this approval of the trial that you're going to be doing. It's all going to come to fruition. Everybody pray that it comes to fruition sooner than later, so that we can assist Dr. Johnson in his continued work to make a difference and saving lives, because it's just
Sonia, let me say something. I don't want to fail to have said this. He also treated my daughter and her mother, Shara, her husband, her son, and 2 or 3 people in her family. And I've sent several people to Dr. Johnson, and he saved their lives. It's not just Farrell. There's a list of folks. Some people, HIPAA and all, you don't want to tell their business, but I've been sending folks there. So the village is showing up. So when Sharon remembered what I told her, I said,
Yeah.
don't allow somebody to be sick that you know of and you failed to call me. So when you told her that, she remembered what I told her. I said, don't fail to call because you think it's casual. The lady I talked to you about that was on my kids' side of the family, on the other side of their family, was diagnosed on a Monday and died on a Wednesday because they thought it was like the flu and they had time.
Wow.
And you don't have time. You got to get after it. Okay.
Don't have time.
Yeah.
Well, this has
And
been an amazing show. Amazing.
Yes.
I'm just grateful. And, you know, I want to give all the honor to God that we're all here in the first place. The skills, the ability, the talent, the resources,
Absolutely.
the heart, the patience, the strength, and all of that. I know, you know, it all comes from that one source and it comes down on us. So grateful. That's the word that I want to close with. Kay, do you have any closing remarks?
I don't. I'm just so grateful and enlightened. This is all new to me. I've just learned about the journey, so I'm still taking it all in. You know, I didn't know what was going on, so Sonia called me all excited. I'm like, wait, what? You know, so I'm just so happy to have you here, Pharaoh. I just can't explain the happiness and the joy in my heart, and I'm so thankful to all of the village here because this is going to be amazing. This is the start of something big. So I see you really being a blessing to a lot of people. So I just thank every one of each one of you guys. Thank you for coming on the show.
The next meeting will be at Perry Steakhouse on Cypress.
Oh wow!
And Dr. Johnson, do you have any closing words that you would like to leave? Any remarks?
I would say one of my favorite sayings: "Praise God from whom all blessings flow."
Yes.
Praise God from whom all blessings flow.
Yes. And then Darryl, do you have any closing?
I'll see you at the next meeting.
All right. And then Mr. Phelps, your closing.
I just, you know, again just want to say how grateful I am. And one of the things that also, Dr. Johnson and Darryl, I've journaled the entire journey through photographs and videos on my good days and my bad days, because I want to make a difference and make an impact. And Sonia and I both agreed as we were going through the process. I said to her, I got to do something to make a difference in the world and to turn things around for people that are going through this thing. And that's why I chose to tell my story and to be honest and candid and share everything that I shared. And Sonia and I both, it was something that we both wanted to do. And we're on board with whatever you guys need us to do, Dr. Johnson, as things move forward. And I just want you to know that as well.
And thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful. Yeah. Pass it on.
All right. Well,
alrighty.
Another amazing segment of Your Voice. We thank everybody for tuning in. We thank all our amazing guests, and we look forward to having these same amazing guests on the next show, talking more about getting set up for these amazing trials that God's going to bring to fruition quickly, and that we can continue to make a difference. So stay tuned for other information, and to reach or get more information or to contact any of our guests, go ahead and contact yourvoicetalkshow@gmail.com, and we will get you the information that's needed. So thank you once again for tuning in. Please share the show. If you missed it, go back and watch it. And we love you all, and we look forward to seeing you again on the next broadcast. Have an amazing evening. Take care, guys. Thank you, everybody.
Night.